Hi, my name is Jennifer LeBeau and I'm a realtor here on Philadelphia's Main Line. Welcome to the third installment of my Home Buying 101 video series. This video is called Closing Costs in Pennsylvania. If any of you have been watching my videos in order, you might wonder why I'm already talking about closing costs when I have yet to discuss criteria for buying a house, finding an agent, making an offer. And the reason is closing costs in Pennsylvania are very high. Now, let me just back up a minute. Closing costs, what are they? Those are the fees above and beyond your down payment and any mortgage you're getting that you need in order to actually purchase a home. They're title fees and tax reimbursements and things like that. So in Pennsylvania, they tend to run about 4.5% of the purchase price. That's a lot of money, and it is cash. It's not financeable, mortgageable money. I like to talk to my buyers about this at the get-go because I don't want them looking at homes where they know they can afford the down payment and they can afford the monthly payment, only to discover that they have $20,000 worth of closing costs that they don't have. So that's why I'm talking about this now. So I say 4.5% as an estimate. That does assume that you're going to be getting a mortgage and that you're going to be doing a PITI payment. That means principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. So what I'm talking about is rolling your real estate taxes and homeowners insurance into your monthly payment. So instead of having a bill come where those are due all at one time, you pay 1/12 of the yearlies in each month so that your your mortgage company ends up actually paying them out of your account. The reason why it's important to understand if you're doing a PITI payment or not for the purposes of estimating your closing costs is that if you are, the mortgage company is going to escrow a lot of extra money so that they can pay those bills. If you're paying them out of your own pocket, your closing costs will be a lot less, although you will then get kind of walloped one month or another with those big bills. So we're going to work on a closing cost worksheet, and I'm going to go through line item by line item what our charges are so you can better understand what closing costs are. For the purposes of this exercise, a home that is $505,000 as a purchase price will be used with a settlement date of November 3rd. These things matter when you're figuring out interest and things. So, very first thing is your title fees. Now, just a quick word about what title is. The title company is, in Pennsylvania, the entity that normally conducts the closing. Many other states use attorneys. In Pennsylvania, while you can use an attorney for the closing, people here rarely do. It's normally a title company that conducts the closing. And this first segment are your title fees. So the first thing is your title insurance. Title insurance will be required if you do have a mortgage. It's wise to get it anyway, but it's an insurance policy against someone popping up later and saying, oh, this used to be my grandmother's house and she left it to me in this will that she wrote on the back of a napkin, that sort of thing. So title insurance in Pennsylvania is set by the state. It is specifically related to the purchase price and nothing else. So in this case, with a purchase price of $505,000, the title insurance for a standard title insurance policy, you can get enhanced, which costs more, but most people don't consider it worth it. So the standard title insurance fee for a $505,000 property is this number here, $3,332.36. Again, doesn't matter what title company you go with, that's a non-negotiable fee. The next title fee is what's called a closing protection letter. That sort of acts as a kind of insurance policy for the title company itself to make sure that they haven't missed anything or gotten a number wrong. That is about $125. Now that is a fee that can change depending on whom you use. Somebody might charge $105, somebody might charge $135, but they're pretty close to that $125 number. The next thing on the sheet is something called title endorsements. In the state of Pennsylvania, we do not, as a matter of course, do surveys on properties before closing. Many states require a survey to be done to make sure that the property lines are as people think. Pennsylvania, we don't do that. So title endorsements are similarly a sort of insurance policy that the property boundaries and things are as they've been represented. and those endorsements run about $200. If you are buying a condo, they can be more. So again, that is an estimate, but they usually run between $200 and $250. The next line on the sheet is mechanics lien insurance. That is rarely, if ever, a number, but it can be if a contractor has just done work on the house for the person who's selling, and that seller has not paid the contractor. The contractor can go down to the courthouse and file a lien, making sure that if that seller sells the property, he gets paid first. So again, in all the years of my practice, I haven't seen that happen, but it is possible, and that's what that line means. The next line, settlement notary fees. Some of the documents at settlement need to be notarized. It's required by the state. So the title officer will be a notary, and depending on which forms and how many need to be notarized, there will be a fee. The $55 amount that I have here is what the title company I usually use charges. So again, it's an estimate because it depends who you use, but it's a good estimate. The next line, recording fees for your mortgage and deed. So both your mortgage and your deed have to be recorded. Depending on the county, there are different fees, and they charge usually a flat rate for the first 2 pages or 4 pages, and then a dollar rate for every page after that. Because of that, depending on which lender you use and exactly how many mortgage pieces of paper there are, that figure will vary a little bit. Usually it runs around $325, $350. If you are recording in the city of Philadelphia, it's a set fee that is higher. I think it's like $470, but again, it's an estimate that will depend on the number of pages in your deed and in your mortgage. Now, the next line is a big chunk of your closing costs, your transfer tax. In Pennsylvania, we have a state and a municipal transfer tax, and in most townships, the total of those fees is 1% for the buyer and 1% for the seller. So you'll see in this case, I assumed that if the price is $505,000, that transfer tax would be what it shows here. There are certain townships where it is 1.25%. In the city of Philadelphia, it is 2% each side, which greatly increases that number. However, since Philadelphia taxes are appreciably lower than they are elsewhere, the entire closing cost amount itself doesn't actually tend to vary that much for that 4.5% estimate. So moving down, you've seen that I've crossed out the next 3 lines. They have a survey cost. Again, this is a form that is used elsewhere, and some people do surveys, but we don't usually. A domestic lien search and Patriot Act search, those things are things that were put into place as options after 9/11, but usually the fees to check against terrorism or anything like that are included in some of the other areas, so that's why I've crossed them out. The following line here is for estimates of things that might not have line items. So I've put, because I have these for most of my transactions, a wire fee from the lender to wire the mortgage, and e-doc delivery. The mortgage companies usually send their documents to the title company via email. They have a fee for that. Those fees generally run, again, in my practice, around $95. So Section 2, broker's fee. All brokers in Pennsylvania charge some kind of broker's fee. It's usually somewhere between $275 and $450. My company charges $375, so that's why you see that on this line. The next section is for property insurance. Now, if you have a mortgage, the lender is going to require you to carry property insurance on your home. They require that the entire first year is paid in full at the settlement table or just prior to settlement. So the number I have here, $2,200, is again an estimate. It depends on what your assets are, how much coverage you want for insurance, but that number is a reasonable estimate for what somebody might have for a homeowner's insurance policy on a home in the $500,000 range. There's also a lender escrow for that homeowner's insurance cost. Again, the bill's going to come to them at some point next year if you are rolling those fees in like we talked about with that PITI payment. So I estimated in this case for a policy that's $2,200 for the year, the lender will probably want to escrow about $600 at closing, and then each month it'll be included in your monthly payment so that they can pay that next bill when it comes. Okay, the next section is adjustments. The adjustments are mostly having to do with taxes. So when you purchase a home, the person from whom you are buying has theoretically paid taxes. You are reimbursing your seller for taxes that he has paid for the time period that you will be living in the house until those taxes have been all used and you have to start for the next year. So in this particular case, the taxes on the property that I used were around $8,600. And in Pennsylvania, in most townships, the school tax, which is your biggest one, runs from July 1st through June 30th, while your municipal and county tax bills run the calendar year. So you can see here on my worksheet, for this property, the school taxes are $19.04 a day. For the purpose of the worksheet, I said we were going to settle November 3rd. So figuring that in, this buyer would have to reimburse the seller $4,560 for the school taxes because the seller will have paid them through June 30th, and this buyer would be taking possession November 3rd. You can see for the taxes for the county and the municipal, much less a day, $2.85 and $1.90. And you can see the reimbursements to the seller over here, much less, again, because it only goes through the calendar year. It would be the rest of November and December in this example. D has the lender escrows for taxes. And remember, this idea of the PITI payment, the lender's going to end up paying that tax bill when it comes. So they're going to escrow a certain amount of money at closing, and then again each month, part of that payment that you're making will be towards your taxes, but they like to have a bunch in the kitty so that they can pay the tax bill when it comes. Those are estimates, and you'd have to check with your lender about what they want to escrow. Okay, the association fees here, prorations and capital contributions, assumes that you are purchasing a property with a homeowners association or a condo association. And again, you might have to reimburse the seller if he's paid through the month of November, and some places require a capital contribution of 1 month or 2 months or something at settlement, or sometimes just a flat fee. So that's what those figures are. Lienable utilities, we rarely see that, so I'm not going to address that. Section 5 has your inspection fees, and the reason that I have the fees over here and not in the dollar figure line is that technically inspection fees are not closing costs because you've already paid them at the time of inspections. However, I include them here because I want to make sure that my buyers have budgeted so they have enough money to do all this extra stuff above and beyond the down payment they need to make the purchase. So I've put in average fees for our area for the main home inspection, wood infestation, or people call it sometimes the termite inspection, a radon inspection. Radon is a gas, odorless, colorless gas that can kill you. So in our area, most people do a radon test. If you have a septic system, you will do a septic inspection. And then there is stucco, if you have stucco or lead paint. So there's all different kinds of inspections you can do. This was just sort of an overview. The last section here on the left are your lender fees. Now, these are definitely estimates because I don't know what lender you're using and what they charge for all of their services. But again, I'm using the fees that the lenders I use most frequently tend to charge. So for the home appraisal and credit report, about $500 here. I assumed on this property that the buyer was putting 20% down, so there would not be mortgage insurance. If there is mortgage insurance, you not only have the premium, but again, an escrow for that again, you'll need to speak to your lender about. Preparation of mortgage documents. Some lenders call this an application fee, a processing fee. Most lenders have a fee somewhere in this $900 range for that, but again, check with your lender. Interest. You will not make your first mortgage payment. In this buyer's case, they're settling November 3rd. Their first mortgage payment is not actually due until January 1st of the following year. However, they have to pay interest on the loan from the day they settle, the 3rd, to the end of the month. And the interest on their particular loan, I figured at this $42.89 a day, so they would owe a little over $1,100 in interest again at the settlement table. So the last item I have here is the flood certification and the tax service fee. That's so that the title company can make sure that the taxes have been paid, or so they can figure out the adjustments. These fees run a little around over $100. And if you add up all of these fees that we see in this example, those closing costs come to just over $24,000. That's a lot of money. Over here on the right in this form, you can see that the purchase price and the closing costs give you a total amount you'll have to pay for this house. And then I have subtracted the mortgage and deposits that this particular buyer would have given, and I put in a $2,250 credit, for example, from something that may have come from inspection, so that you'd be able to see your total cash that you would need to bring to settlement, which again is your down payment as well as your closing costs. So I hope that has been instructive. I hope you understand closing costs a little bit better now. And I also hope that you've enjoyed the video. Please visit me at my website, jenniferlebeau.com. I welcome questions and comments. Thank you.